Hi everyone. Today I would like to show you how to use an authentic English text to improve your English. We'll be looking at the first page of the novel Every Day by David Levithan, which I'm currently reading and working on with my Year 10 class. But even if you don't know the novel, don't worry, because we just look at the first page, and so you can understand this video even if you don't know the novel. What we're going to do is not what we usually do when we read a novel. We don't look at the plot and the characters and the themes and deeper meaning, message, whatever. We're just going to see how you can use a text, an English text, to help you improve your English, because basically that's, of course, what the main aim of our English lessons is. Of course, understanding novels or stories or poems or newspaper articles is important, but much more than that, I assume, you would like to improve your English and learn new words and phrases, and this is what we're going to do. So we're going to look at the first page, and before we start, let me say, obviously, what we're going to do now is something that you might want to do every now and then again, looking at a short passage. It's not meant, obviously, you're not meant to do this all the time when you read a novel. That would be really boring. Usually you read for entertainment or to understand what's going on and to think about the meaning of the novel. But today we're just going to do something a little different. We're just going to look at the language. And you can do this anytime. With any kind of English text, just focus your attention on language structures and words and phrases. Have your index cards ready and see how you can use this to improve your English. This is the first page of the novel, or the first mini chapter of the novel. I wake up, immediately I have to figure out who I am. It's not just the body, opening my eyes and discovering whether the skin on my arm is light or dark, whether my hair is long or short, whether I'm fat or thin, boy or girl, scarred or smooth. The body is the easiest thing to adjust to if you're used to waking up in a new one each morning. It's the life, the context of the body, that can be hard to grasp. Every day I am someone else. I am myself. I know I am myself, but I'm also someone else. It has always been like this. So this is the introduction to the novel. And again, as I said, I would simply want you to look at language. Now, basically, I think the language is not too difficult. The vocabulary, the sentence structure is not too difficult, I hope. But still, I think we can find a lot of things here which you might want to pick out, to focus on, and to use in practice. First thing I want to point out to you is the tense. Now, this is written in the present tense, as you can easily see. And as you know, most novels are written in the past. So most novels would start with, I woke up. But Levithan decides to start with, I wake up. And you know this, the present tense tells you something, the simple present tells you something that happens all the time or regularly. So he's not saying, I'm waking up, which would be saying, this is something that happens only now, right now. But he uses the simple present to say it's something that happens regularly, but still he's taking you into the present tense to take you along on the journey that the novel is, to keep you right by his side, right here in the present. Okay, so again, it is something that you might want to analyze when you look at the novel, but it's also something you want to think about when you write. Which tense do I actually use? Next thing I want to look at is making paragraphs. Now, this is something that many students find difficult. Some of you don't make paragraphs at all, or very long ones, or too many very short ones. And here we have 4 paragraphs, which is, of course, more than you would make in your essay. In your essay, you would not make a 1-sentence paragraph or a 3-word paragraph, I wake up. But still, you should think about how to make these paragraphs. Now, imagine that Levithan had gone on right after wake up without making a paragraph. I wake up immediately, I have to figure out who I am. But by making this paragraph, he sort of creates this little pause that relates, of course, to the pause that is there when you wake up. You take a second to think, what's going on? Where am I? Oh, yes, this is it. And he shows us with a paragraph. And again, this is something you should look at and figure out how writers do this and how you want to do this in your writing. Where do you make a paragraph? To stop, to pause. Connectives, a great number of connectives. English teachers, bring them into class all the time, and you should use them. Here we have immediately. Again, if Levithan had left this out, I wake up, I have to figure out who I am, it would be a different text. And the immediately, of course, stresses the immediacy, the fact that this happens right away. Remember that after your connective, you have to have a comma. Yeah, immediately, comma, I have to figure out. You could, of course, put right away, comma, I have to figure out, or in that instant, I have to figure out. But see how he uses the connective and ask yourself how you use connectives to structure your text. Next point, a nice word, to figure something out. Now, this is something you should not use in a written essay because it's sort of a colloquial word, something you use orally in speaking. But when you speak, which you do in class, of course, and in many other situations, it's a nice English word to use in many contexts. I can't figure that out. I couldn't figure out what the teacher wanted me to do. Could you figure that out? And it's something that you will understand, but would you use it? If not, put it on index card. And I would like you to practice right away. I would like to give you 10 seconds to practice this by making just 2 or 3 or 4 sentences with the phrase to figure something out. Can you do that? Can you make a question maybe and a sentence in the past or in the future with using to figure something out? I will leave you 10 seconds to try it out and practice. Okay, so as I said, I would just like you not just to look at this and say, oh yeah, I understand, but you have to practice all the time. Write it down and practice. Next thing I want to point out are gerunds. You have 2 here, opening and discovering. So remember, a gerund is a verb that becomes a noun. It's not just the body is a noun, but it's also opening my eyes and discovering. So the verbs to open and to discover, they become nouns here. And again, if you understand this, you probably understand the sentence, make some sentences using this. Yeah? It's not just food, it's putting it into your mouth and chewing it and swallowing it that is so pleasant. It was not only looking at her, it was also listening to her voice and smelling her perfume that made me fall in love with her, or whatever. Yeah, you make sentences like that and practice using these gerunds. Next thing, the word weather. Now, first of all, make sure you know how to spell it, and you know how to spell the weather, like rain, sunshine, and the word weather. And then, of course, you can always say if. Opening my eyes and discovering if the skin on my arm is light or dark. Weather is just, slightly upgrade language, elevated style. You could use weather every once and again to show that you know how to use not just if, but weather also. So practice making sentences with weather. Using an infinitive with a preposition. The body is the easiest thing to adjust to. Very English, easy to understand, but rarely used by students. Make sentences like that. The situation was the hardest one to get used to. He was the nicest person to talk to. He was the nicest person to be with. It was the thing to look for, and so on. So to, an infinitive, to look, and then a preposition for, to look after, to look through, and so on. Yeah, his lies were easy to look through, for instance. Again, practice. Similarly, get used to or be used to doing something. If you're used to waking up, basically meaning this is what you always do, you're familiar with this, and it's a habit. And usually you use this when you say, but then this time it's different. So he was used to going to school in a car, so it was weird for him to walk all by himself. Or if you're used to eating with a fork and knife, it's difficult to use chopsticks in the Chinese restaurant. Next one, every day. Obviously, that's the title of the novel, so you might want to make sure that you spell it correctly and see the difference between every day, something that happens every single day, or the adjective every day, which you could use in the sense of it was an everyday situation. It was not a spectacular, unusual, special situation. It was an everyday one. Yeah? It's an everyday phrase that you use all the time. Yeah, it's not something unusual. Again, make sure you know the difference and use both words or expressions. Finding synonyms. Now, when you look at the word grasp, it can mean to grab with your hand, but in this case and in many cases, it means to understand something. Now, you know the word to understand. You've learned it in your first year of English, but you might want to move on and say, well, I know more words than just understand to say what's going on. When I understand something, you could say to grasp. So you can tell the teacher, I find this difficult to grasp, or to comprehend, or to make sense of, or to come to terms with. Now, all these synonyms are, slightly different, but basically they mean the same thing. And if you use these, you show that you have a large vocabulary, and very often one of these four might be just a little more exact than understand. Okay, so make sure that you practice using synonyms, not just saying, okay, I know understand, so I can say what I want to say. Especially if you want to move on to English Leistungskurs, advanced classes, then you should be able to use synonyms. Finally, something that is also something students often find a bit difficult, using dashes. Dash in German, Gedankenstrich. That's a nice word, a thought line, if you like, or a thought stroke, meaning that you show in your text that there's a little pause. It's a little bit similar to the paragraph, but not as strong. You simply put a little dash to say, I am myself. Pause. I know I am myself. Pause. New thought. But I am also someone else. Okay, so that's a way of making the reader understand that there's a little pause. In an essay, you would usually not use two in a row, but you might use one in the sense of saying, at this point, the hero understands her problem, dash, but he also finds it hard to cope with it. So you use the dash to point out that little pause. I hope that what we've been doing here has been helpful. And again, please bear in mind that you don't always do this. That would be horribly boring, if you did this all the time, and you would read very slowly, But every now and again, take the time to read a page or half a page like this. Have your index cards ready. Write down the words and phrases you feel you want to memorize or to use in the future. And most importantly, as I keep saying, please practice them. Never just say, I've understood this, I can understand this, but you want to practice them so that you can use them and make a little, give yourself a little hand when you use them in English class or in whatever circumstances. And you tell your teacher, oh, Mr., Mrs., I finally grasped this. I finally made sense of this and I've comprehended this. Okay. So hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, suggestions, criticism as always. And I hope this will be helpful to you. See you then. Bye bye.